Chapter 9. A First Taste of Angriff's Blessing. All the pieces were in place. It was time to ring the dither bell. After subtly using Verbogen's blessing at night to sneak around the temple, she found the plans for the planned routes of the coming harvest festival, simply laying for the word to see on top of the High Bishop's desk. Using her new high beast stone, she used the same method paired with her trusty Lessie to find and prepare a possible hideout. After some searching, she found a cave which would suit her needs. Placing the 4 fabrics containing magic circles she prepared beforehand. One she placed and activated right away. It was a transfer circle connecting to its brother in her hidden room. She would use it to teleport back and towards here on the day of her ambush. Another 2 would come into play afterwards, so she simply laid them down without activating them. The last one was laid at the entrance of the cave and promptly activated. It was a simple design evoking Verbogen and Cesaria to shroud said entrance for fey beasts and men alike who did not possess her mana. The windshield would only activate if someone without the same tried to enter the cave. Entering the transport circle, she was back in her room from where she left to return into her bed. All preparations were done, and now it was time to wait. It was on the second day of the harvest festival she would strike. She had concealed herself between the trees bordering the road. It was as good enough a place as any. Taking a seat on a rock nearby, she began to watch the road for the carriages to appear. She chose a place just short of the border between the provinces Dalhof and Joysontak. Her hope was the distance they had to travel meant the most probable suspect, Ferdinand, was already engaged with another target on his list at this time, giving him more than enough witnesses and solidifying his alibi. She prayed to Griffitchen just to make sure. Now she only had to wait. After what felt like forever, she finally spied her targets pulling up the road towards her location. Getting up, she slid her mask into place and took out 3 small bags, holding them in her hand. It was her own personal concoction of different ingredients, resulting in a fine powder which, when inhaled, had an instant, strong sedative effect. Sadly, it did not linger in the air long enough to affect all passengers without losing its effectiveness, and did not work against many users at all, but it was the drivers, horses, and servants she was aiming for in the first place. Now, with her targets nearby upon her position, she took aim and threw the first bag with her right hand just between the horses and the driver of the first carriage. The bag exploded in a purple cloud as intended, showering her targets and creating quite a commotion. She watched with satisfaction as both the driver and horses slumped over. Taking the next bag in her right hand, she repeated her actions on the second carriage, putting them to sleep as well. Drawing her blades, she slowly began to advance towards them, 3rd bag at the ready.
Now, in which of these are you, fake Santa?
What is the meaning of all this? A man storming out of the second carriage gave her all the clues she needed. She threw the last bag through the window of the first carriage to hopefully knock them out too. Her gaze returned to the shouting man again. He wore light armor traditionally worn by knights. His face showed his obvious annoyance at the tumult she caused. His yellow-green hair was an unexpected but familiar sight. An unseen grin formed on her face.
Well, who would have thought I would find Shikikosa here too? Praise be to Griffitchen and Dragoner for working overtime.
The walking nightmare of her first Trombe extermination finally noticed her form as she steadily advanced. He formed his Stappe, aiming it at her before he spoke with a chuckle. Just a lonely child. What kind of joke is this? And here I was worried for a moment. Learn your place, you filthy commoner. In the next moment he fired a beam of concentrated mana at her, which she easily dodged. Using her enhancement magic to augment her body, she rushed at him. Channeling the momentum she built into a sideways thrust of her mana-enhanced blade through his left thigh, piercing it and bringing the man to his knees with a cry of pain. Removing her blade from his body, she simply slashed at his throat, which was now in her range. The fountain of blood erupting upon his decapitation, showering her, was not part of her estimations. It seemed her new blade was sharper than anticipated, or she had simply put too much strength into her swing. How unfortunate. She had hoped he would die slowly, choking on his own blood. Oh well. Stepping away from the now headless corpse, she shifted her attention towards the carriage again. Looking inside, she saw fake Santa frozen in fright, staring at her display in obvious fear, trying to sink further into his seat. Stay away from me! Entering the carriage, she noticed an old man wearing scholarly attire had just opened the door on the other side. Her current small stature allowed her to perform a roundhouse kick into his side with her right leg. The force propelled him straight through the door, an explosion of wooden splinters following his tumble until he stopped a fair distance away. She really needed to get better control of her enhancement. This was just poor showing at this point. Her dear Hannelore would be appalled at her lacking performance before lamenting she had to retrain her. Again. How embarrassing. Returning her attention to the fat waste of space who called himself High Bishop, she levelled her blade at him. His grovelling for mercy was slightly cathartic for her soul. How many lives has this man's action ruined? Not that she had much room to talk, but she allowed herself to bask in the moment just a little. Rot! Her head swiveled to her right. The scholar she just catapulted through the door had seemingly recovered enough to send a red signal for help as she was distracted. She pierced the head of the old fool with white robes, removing her blade and ignoring the blood and gore sprinkling on her form. Next, she moved to the pathetic waste of space crawling on the ground that had shortened her playtime. He seemed oddly familiar.
What was his name? Can something... who cares?
A simple swing of her blade slashed through his neck. Not waiting a single moment longer, she used her best speed, dashing into the forest. She had to get away fast before the Night Order investigated the distress signal. To her great relief, she arrived back at her circle inside the cave without being spotted. Deactivating the concealment fabric as she entered, she then loosened her belt holding her equipment before laying it to the side. Afterwards, she quickly stripped out of her blood-soaked attire. Now fully bereft of clothing, she placed them on the fabric containing a magic circle, evoking Leidenschaft she had prepared beforehand. Activating it, she made sure every trace of her outfit was erased before she picked her belt and fabrics up again, stepping onto the prepared fabric holding a trio of circles she had placed days before. The first circle would activate her teleportation back to her hidden room. Upon finishing the transfer, it would activate the next one, evoking Leidenschaft again, starting a small fire which would consume the fabric at a slow pace. More than enough time for the last one to do its intended work. Finally, the last one would evoke the blessings of the God of Darkness, which would consume any remaining mana in its vicinity before turning onto itself, erasing any trace of mana usage from the last weeks. Seeing as the fire was not mana dependent at this point, it would erase all traces of its existence upon completion. It was one of her creations she was most proud of. Upon activating the matrix, she was teleported back to her hidden room with a flash, where she rinsed herself with a quick wash and prayer. She then donned her undergarments and blue shrine maiden attire again. Afterwards, she stashed the belt and fabrics away and left the room, citing she had simply fallen asleep to the bemusement of her attendants. Maybe she should start reading her new book now? The thought alone made her wiggle in excitement, which earned her a lecture from Yenny about her behavior. Why?